On this episode of Advertising in America, we're asking the question, when is it time to change your ads?
When is it time to change your ads? Two possible answers. Leave them up longer than you think, or change them up more often than you think.
How often do you change your ads? You change them all the time. How often do you change your advertising? Not nearly as often as you think. Hardly ever. You want your ads to be fresh and your advertising to be consistent.
Think long and hard about how good your ads are. If they're compelling, entertaining, and the sort of messaging that makes you turn the volume up rather than down when you hear it on the radio or see it on TV, leave that sucker on a little longer.
It's like asking the security guards at the art gallery how often we should change the exhibit. They've been standing here looking at the damn Mona Lisa for days on end. They're going to suggest we change the art on the walls every week. But the general public is still perfectly happy to keep coming in and seeing it. It is far from burnt out.
On this episode of Advertising in America, we're asking the question, when is it time to change your ads? And I'm asking the question, why are we doing a podcast that could have been an email? Turns out the Torbay twins have some special feelings about the duration of ads on the air, and that if we just did a podcast about it, we could save them having to type out their minging and whinging every time they get asked a simple question. In lieu of an interesting topic, we'll be sure to double the cussing for your entertainment. Up first, Mick is here to explain why you get bored of your commercials far sooner than your audience. Mick?
When is it time to change your ads? Two possible answers. Leave them up longer than you think, or change them up more often than you think. In my world, it's the first answer, and the you in this case is the client, the business owner. The client generally thinks we should change the commercials more quickly than we do because the client is sick of them. But this isn't actually fair. You see, the client read the script months ago and went through all the permutations of the copy, approved the final version, might have been sitting in the recording studio or on set when the commercial was made, watching it over and over again, rough cuts, better cuts, final cuts. And all of this is before the consumer saw it once. Sure, you're sick and tired of it, but the audience hasn't even seen it yet. So yeah, you need to give the viewers a chance to spend a little time with it. The time you spent already doesn't count. And also remember, when you were poring over the script or watching those first edits, you were looking carefully with a critical eye. Your audience is doing no such thing. It might not even register the first couple of times they hear it. So even when your media buyer shows you that the listeners are getting exposed to it, that doesn't mean they're as invested in this thing as much as you were. That's why we run it over and over again. There's a mathematical formula that we use at the Wizard of Ads to ensure it's on for just the right amount of time, and it varies with the media buy, so it's not of any use to you here. But as a rule, you want people to hear it a bunch of times. But how much is too much? Well, on the topic of too much, all you have to do is look at our friends in the large agency space. They live in the world of the 13-week flight. Now, I don't know how long a Budweiser ad should run, but I know that 13 weeks is too long. My guess is that they run them that long because they've always run them that long, and the union pays based on how many 13 weekses they run. And of course, the fact that they spend $500,000 to make a 30-second commercial will also factor into why they don't change them every month or so. So even if the viewers are no longer laughing at the jokes, that's how often they change them. But there's another variable to consider. Is your commercial any good? Is it boring? Is it shitty? Because if it brings nothing to the table except the same crap as everybody else, then the last thing you want to do is run that same shitty ad over and over again. The least you could do is rephrase it a bit. I remember years ago I had a meeting with a client. They were a mortgage broker, and I can't remember how I got the meeting because he didn't want new ads. In fact, he told me he already had the perfect radio ad, and he even played it for me. I'm going to play it for you. He won't be annoyed because, after all, it's perfect.
When you need a mortgage, Savers is the one to call.
If you need a first, second, or third mortgage to buy a home, refinance your existing mortgages, consolidate your existing debts, or for any purpose, call Savers Mortgage, the bank alternative.
Mortgage, 493-1983.
Again.
493-1983. The problem solvers.
Apply at savers.ca or 416-493-1983.
And that was the perfect ad. So perfect, in fact, that he ran the same fucking ad for literally 2 decades. Why change it when it's perfect? If I was this guy, I'd change it a lot because that is a shitty commercial. Just a list of who their potential customers might be. A really long list. So Think long and hard about how good your ads are. If they're compelling, entertaining, and the sort of messaging that makes you turn the volume up rather than down when you hear it on the radio or see it on TV, leave that sucker on a little longer. If it's just, here's who we are and here's what we sell, change your ads early and often.
Mick, you seem to have some strong feelings about the Savers Mortgage ad. Like sarcastic feelings, but feelings. I'm left wondering about the parking situation and whether or not their experienced, courteous staff cares about my needs, though. Chris, take it from here.
How often do you change your ads? You change them all the time. How often do you change your advertising? Not nearly as often as you think. Hardly ever. You want your ads to be fresh and your advertising to be consistent. Most people who have tried advertising and been unsuccessful tell the same story. Finally tried running a radio ad after the sales guys hounded them for long enough to try advertising on their station. So they wrote one ad, probably full of all the same table stakes messages that are in their competitors' ads, and ran it for 13 weeks. And when their business didn't magically quadruple, they decided advertising didn't work. Or perhaps the ad did work. So the next year they ran it again and again the year after that. After spending so much money to make that one ad, hey, let's run the TV ad again. And so people got sick of it and stopped paying attention. The anecdotal feedback went from, hey, cool, I saw your ad, to, yeah, I saw your ad again. If you choose to do advertising, you don't need an ad. You need to become an advertiser. You write an ad, then another ad, then another ad. You make me want to know what's coming in the ad that comes next. You make me interested in your campaign as much as you do in any single ad. You make me think of you as the brand I know, like, and trust in this category, not the guys with that one ad. Taylor Swift didn't write a song and become a superstar. She wrote dozens of songs, and then an album, and then more songs, and then more albums, and then toured, and then started working with better producers and wrote even better songs. Now, when the tour comes to town, you say, let's go, I like her stuff. And just like Tay-Tay has another song ready to release.
Kind of a hectic day. At 11 a.m., went to go see Toy Story 5. Got so inspired, got the songwriter zoomies.
Whenever the current song starts dropping on the charts, you need to keep your ads fresh. Run them at a decent weight, and when people have seen them about a dozen times, give me a new one. But your advertising idea, the campaign that brings all those ads together in a way that is unmistakably you, don't touch it. And if you're new on the account, on the client side or the agency side, ask yourself if you're changing it because it needs to be changed or because you need something to do to justify your existence. There is no greater threat to the longevity of a great idea than the turnover among the marketing people involved. No one is closer to the advertising than the marketing people. They get sick and tired of it way before the general public does. They went to the meetings, the production, the edit, the research. They burn out on this stuff way before the average listener does. It's like asking the security guards at the art gallery how often we should change the exhibit. They've been standing here looking at the damn Mona Lisa for days on end. They're going to suggest we change the art on the walls every week. But the general public is still perfectly happy to keep coming in and seeing it. It is far from burnt out. And the Louvre has built a global brand on being the place with the Mona Lisa, still to this day. Keep your ads fresh and your advertising consistent.
Chris, I'm uncomfortable with you referring to Taylor Swift as Tay-Tay. Henceforth, you shall refer to her as Miss Swift or Mrs. Kelsey. Find your dignity, man. We'll be right back after these messages.
So this is normally when Ryan throws to himself, kind of a commercial within a show about commercials. And that's fine, we could let him do that. But really what you want to hear is me yelling at you. That's the reason you tune into the show. Sure, the conversations are fun and the insights are thought-provoking, but what you really want is cursing, and that's where I come in. I mean, I don't want to get all shit or get off the pot on you, but at the moment, Ryan's doing this whole, I'll give you 45 minutes of my time to help you narrow down your challenges and find a solution thing. You think that asshole will give me 45 minutes to shoot the shit? But here's what he does. This maniac will go over everything. Your sales process, your offers, your loyalty club, and yes, your marketing. And then you don't have to do a fucking thing. You can take all that insight and roll. If you like what you hear and want a deeper dive away, my friend. Ryan ends up not working with about 90% of the people he meets. But the ones he does end up working with, they start here. So think about that. He's got a whole web thingy where you can book an appointment. It's at wizardofads.services. Stupid address, you want to believe it. And I'd say that to his face. wizardofads.services. And now, let's get back to the stuff I really want to curse about. Shit!
Okay, we're back. So the boys did it again. Different door, same room. Mick says leave the good ones up longer than feels comfortable. Chris says keep the ads fresh, but never touch the campaign. Both of them are saying change the execution, not the idea. Let's pull this apart. There's three things I want to dig into today with the Peanut Gallery. Number one, Mick, you said that the client is sick of the ad before the audience has seen it once. Tell us about that.
Well, it's just the nature of the production process. I mean, we're pitching scripts to our clients, say in September, that are not going to run until January. You know, because by the time the script is approved and we're moving into production and we're recording, we're shooting, we're editing, we're approving again. There's many levels of approval, and by the time it actually gets to the air, literally a third of a year can go by, and the client is experiencing the ad over and over again. And if let's say the ad is funny, well, they're not laughing at the jokes
joke
anymore.
Long since gone stale. Exactly.
They're not finding it hilarious when they hear the ad. So it's easy after a couple of weeks, and then now they're driving to work, and now they're hearing the ad, and they're like, okay, all right. I mean,
I bet you people are getting sick and tired.
Yeah,
of this.
we made our point here. Like, when are we going to move this along? It's like the consumer has barely registered this at all. So you have to think in terms of what is the consumer's experience, which is, I barely noticed it. I have to hear it several times before I start to notice it. Then I hear it. Then I say, it's pretty funny. And then around about the fifth or sixth time, it's like, hey, honey, listen to this one. It's hilarious. So we need to understand that we are not the consumer, and the only opinion that matters is the consumer. So since you can't think like a consumer, you can just behave like one.
Yeah, and the only people who have listened to this ad over and over and parsed every single thing that's in it, and whether it says this and whether it says that, the only people who've done that are the people who were in the meetings. The consumer is hearing it in the mix, in between music and sports and news updates and things like that. And if you've written an interesting enough ad, sometimes you're not going to get all those jokes the first time, the second time, the third time. It's the fourth time where you go, oh, that's funny. I never noticed there's that part where he does this at the end. That actually makes reference to that. You know, those little, Easter eggs or things that are in it. If it's a well-structured ad, those things don't come out until you've heard it a few times, and you're sick and tired of them, but they're just getting it for the first time.
Well, yeah, and Robert Heath in the Journal of Advertising Research in 2009 alluded to that in his peer-reviewed work around the exposure, the emotional engagement of the person watching the television. In this particular one, what he was talking about was when people are watching TV, and particularly TV ads, they're at a level of low attention that peripherally almost everything else is going on. They're folding the laundry, they're making dinner, they're looking at their phone.
They're driving to work.
Two screens is a normal thing nowadays as we start to see the evolution of attention being pulled in multiple directions.
Full attention
is the client who's like, oh, it's our agent, it's our ad on the
meeting to discuss this very ad. So they are actually evaluating it in a different mental frame of mind than the average viewer is receiving it.
Yeah, well, think of it like you're paying attention as a business owner at 100%, and the viewer is watching it at 5%. Mm-hmm. So it needs multiple hits at 5% just to get your
some of those 5% is
that's
to get to something.
Exactly. Yeah. That's excellent. Now, some of the other research that's come out around this, the Journal of Marketing Research by Calder and Sternthal, the TV commercial wear out and an information processing view, classic peer-reviewed wear out study. So this is all kind of verified research, but it's also about people just kind of wearing out, or the ad starting to get stale or tiring. found that wear out is real, but it's gradual, and emotionally engaged ads wear out much, much slower than rational feature-led ones. So, yeah, if you have an incredibly boring ad, you're going to have to change it up much faster.
Annoying jingle.
Why don't you just go ahead and say the ad that we played earlier?
When you need a mortgage, Savers is the one to call.
You're not going to waste. I mean, the one everybody loves to hate is Cars for Kids, because the jingle just gets in you right, and it's not.
1877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids.
If it's a great musical hook, you actually kind of dig it, right? Or if it's a great little performance by the actors. I mean, you can go back a couple of decades to Where's the Beef? It's like people would look forward to that one line from their one crazy old lady. Like it was. Yeah. You could hear Clara Peller a million times and still go, God, she was an old bag.
Yeah, it's adorable and endearing, and it's kind of.
She's still alive today. She's 180 years old.
I think she is.
Wow,
yeah,
it's fantastic. I think she might be a Jedi, or a Sith. We don't know. So a great ad can run far longer than a bad one. So the question of when to change isn't just about time; it's about the quality or impact quotient of the actual ad itself.
Which is why the discussion flips when you're talking about a campaign, right? You can keep running the same campaign, and we've talked a bunch of times about, I'm a Mac, I'm a PC, or Mayhem for Allstate. You can keep going back to that well because it's funny every time. Every time, the Mayhem guy turns up and he's, in another form of chaos because that's who he is.
I'm an action hero, and like in every epic chase scene, there's no way I'm getting away without hitting a fire hydrant.
We look forward to another one of those, or you look forward to another Justin Long being snooty to the poor PC guy. You can just keep coming. I look forward to going back and going back and going back. So suddenly the consistency is stronger, and staying with the campaign is stronger, but it's because you're actually refreshing the individual ads.
Mm-hmm. In and around page 122 in Secret Formulas of the Wizard of Ads, we talk about a very specific repetition as well, which ties into impact quotient and total reach. And ultimately, reach ends up being a quotient of your budget, but repetition is excruciatingly important. You're going to have to run the ad more often if your customers or prospects or your audience is barely hearing it as well. You could run it for half a year if your frequency was wrong or your repetition was wrong, but you're missing the mark on so many other things that you're actually better off to get your repetition right and to shorten the length of that ad run.
And I wonder how long or how often businesses are doing it because that's the way it's always been done, where for decades people would run TV ads for 13 weeks and then sometimes another 13 weeks. I mean, if the question of how long an ad should run has literally run the gamut from the early days of radio when radio ads were done live. Yeah. So it ran once like this.
Yes.
They might have used the same script tomorrow, but it wouldn't be the same. And they would literally make that one ad live, and so it would run once like that. And now, I mean, I literally got an email today that said that a commercial, a national commercial that my son was in that has run in the United States for 1 year is now being picked up for a second year.
Yeah.
So it's now going to run for 2 years in America. And I think to myself, it's a good ad, there's no question. Maybe we can run it if we can. Maybe it's running now. If we can't, it's not. I don't know what the rules are. But the point is, it's on YouTube. It's not a secret. The point is, it's a good ad, but my goodness, 2 years, write a new freaking ad,
now,
guys.
To their credit, they're probably not running it at the frequency that we would say, right? Where you want to see it 3 times a week for however many weeks. If they're running it that kind of weight, no, they're not going to.
And I also have a fairly good idea of how much they spent to make it, just based on counting the production trucks, which was 22. So if you were there when they were making this ad for buns, you'd think that they were making a feature film. It was the catering was 75 crew, 25 agency people. I mean, it was just ridiculous the amount of people there.
We're going to run that ad for a while.
So they're going to run that ad for a while. But I would still question, is that the right thing to do? You know, one of the things we do is we will sacrifice budgets like that in order to make more commercials a year, running maybe 8 commercials a year instead of 1 or 1 every 2 years. But so that we can change the client, change the campaign, change the commercial, so it can be a campaign, and the consumer gets to see the next chapter,
What
and
happens
can
to these
enjoy
characters
it
again, or how does this situation affect another family, or whatever the premise of the ad is.
Yeah.
Let's do it again and do it in a different place, in a more interesting place, and have me look forward to the next installment. And that's the idea of keep the advertising idea consistent, the campaign idea, so that I know you as the brand that believes thus, or the ad that does, the company that thinks this way, because I see you do it 5 different ways in 5 different contexts. That sets up a sense of who you are as a brand, whereas one ad is entertaining for as long as it's entertaining, and then it's not entertaining anymore.
And Chris, this goes back to your whole thing about ads versus advertising. And it makes me think of like blockbuster film during the summertime versus a sitcom that runs for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what is the right play? Well, when we're trying to embed and entrench a deep bonding to the characters, and we have a minute at best to create that bond, what's the distinction?
I mean, I think the way you do it is that minute is only, it's not a minute. It's if we're doing 12 spots a year, it's 12 minutes. So now we do have time to have you get to know these characters and what they represent from the brand, right? As opposed to,
and it's more than that if they hear it more than once.
Yeah,
right?
and the average person who's running a 30-second commercial read by the announcer, you know, who's not a character that you know, like, and trust, you know, then that makes a big difference.
Right. But you start to think of like the Geico Gecko. You start to think of Mac versus PC, Bobby Jenkins and Bobby and Mr. Jenkins. Yeah. These were campaignable stretches where you started to create a relationship, even if it's a parasocial relationship with the characters, mm-hmm. to know, like, and trust them. Yeah. Which is ultimately the goal that we're trying to achieve prior to them needing what you have to sell.
Bobby and Mr. Jenkins was a 30-second sitcom.
Yeah.
That ran all year round. It was television. They were making television. They were making a television program which was only tangentially about air conditioning, which is what the guy sells. But in fact, what it was an interesting little moment between 2 interesting and disparate characters who shouldn't be together and yet somehow are, which is always interesting because you don't know how they're going to react because the characteristics are so they don't go together, and yet they're stuck in this truck.
Mr. Jenkins?
Yes, Bobby.
I think there's been a mistake.
A mistake?
But that made for interesting television, and you didn't have to have a broken air conditioner to want to watch the next one.
Yeah, and it said something about the character of the company because they each represented a facet thereof, right? And so it built up in you a sense of what this organization was like and how they behaved and what they believed and what you could expect from them if they were to ever come to your house.
Absolutely.
By building that up over episode after episode after episode.
Well, and Ryan's fun fact, Jenny Romanek and Byron Sharp, the Ironburg Bass Institute, How Brands Grow, Part 2, the second book in Byron Sharp's category from Oxford University Press 2016. And Romanek's Building Distinctive Brands in Oxford 2018. Again, peer-reviewed research that talks about how brands actually grow, and it's the distinctive brand assets. The opportunity for us to embed certain things, jingles, sound signatures, sound logos, characters, colors, this kind of ongoing reoccurrence of consistency that allowed us to help people make the decision that they were the ones that are familiar, trustworthy, endearing, empathetic, competent, all of the things that brand assets can't do if they don't get noticed, right? It's one thing to have a truck wrap that is like every other truck wrap, and even if it's clever and unique and colorful, it means nothing without any kind of auditory and visual signature behind it that actually tells a story. Consistently changing these things up to create novelty is a big way that Broca's area of the brain captures that information and allows it back into club imagination, where you get the chance to be selected when it comes time to buy the thing.
Yeah, but some of those, I mean, this is classic branding, is those things build up over time. If you think of the early Apple commercials. It was people dancing. It was they still do it. The really tight close-ups of the phone spinning in like high definition graphics, or the watch, or the whatever, and it kind of rotates and whatever. They have a look about them, and it's after seeing 10 of them that you go, this has got to be an Apple commercial, because that's how they show their product. Or this is, you look at the Skittles campaign, which has been running for years. It's always like a completely absurd situation, and then it ends with Skittles. Eat the rainbow, taste the rainbow. They always change the word, right? It's always barf the rainbow, taste the rainbow. They always change the line, but it can come from But there is a look about them, and there is a vibrancy about them, but it only starts to look like that when you've seen 10 of them, and you can say, I think this is fitting into that campaign now.
It's a combination of novelty breeds bred and familiarity.
Yeah, each one of them will be, what the heck is this thing? And we end up there, which is new every time.
Yep.
But the process of getting there is the same every time.
Right.
I think you brought up a really interesting point when you mentioned Taylor Swift as your example. Someone who is a brilliant songwriter, very prolific, writes albums, produces so much really good material. And then that is why we acknowledge that she is one of the greatest. And we compare that to the one-hit wonder who we all disparage because they did this one thing and it was crazy and it worked, but they could never do it again, which means they're not one of the greatest, which is true. Isn't it interesting that we understand that when we're talking about music?
Yes.
When we talk about advertising, we revere the one-hit wonders.
We're still looking for that killer ad. If you could just give me another 1984 ad.
We talk about that Super Bowl ad from 3 years ago, or that Super Bowl ad from 1 year ago, and literally all of them are attempting to be one-hit wonders. None of them have a second a chapter. Like none of the great, interesting Super Bowl ads are ever part of a series. They're never part of an ongoing. They're never part of a freaking album. They're just throwing a dart at the wall saying, maybe we can do something crazy that will be interesting and they'll be talking about it tomorrow around the water cooler.
Yeah.
Why do we revere the one-hit wonder in advertising when we acknowledge that in music, that's not what we're going for? What you want to be is Paul Simon.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, just to beat the comparison to death with music, it's interesting that, the great artists, they have new songs all the time, and we appreciate the next new song and the next new song and the next new song, but they're in a lane too, right? Like Taylor Swift has great hit after great hit after great hit, but she doesn't try and rap. She doesn't try and do trip hop. She doesn't try, right? And even when she went a little bit away from country and into pop, there was a bunch of people who said, because she's a brand. And you want your brand to do that things that the brand for. And you've come to expect it, and you've come to look forward to more of it. So the people who were listening to Taylor Swift in the early days when she was a country artist, it's like, I would like some more of this country stuff coming from Taylor Swift, please, because I love it. And so she can move this far, but if she moves this far, everybody's going to fall off the train.
We don't want to hear her classical
We
stuff.
don't want to hear her classical. We don't want to hear her rapping. We don't want to hear,
I do.
drum and bass.
I would like to hear her.
You got it in the right order this time.
I did.
Brian's fun fact.
not right now. But maybe. Chris, you'd also made the point about the single biggest killer of great campaigns is the new marketing hire, trying to make their mark. And we often see that if we're transitioning out and somebody else is transitioning in, the very first thing that gets killed is what we created, because mostly of ego and those types of things. But there's very often, most companies aren't dealing with that problem. They're dealing with, they have terrible advertising and they're transitioning into doing something that actually works.
Yeah, but it's usually because they do something to start it. They either bring in a marketing person, or they decide to hire an agency if they've been writing their own ads beforehand, or they, and we've talked about this before. Nobody starts working on a piece of business and has the, personal confidence to say, I'm the new sheriff in town, and first thing I'd like to say is, as you were, people, keep up the good work. Like, no one will do that. They come into it with the sense that I should come in here and
things are going to be different
and change some things up. But that's their perspective, and that's their desire to look like they are taking the bull by the horns, that they're earning the money that we've paid them. If they hire you on as a new creative director at the agency for $150K, you're going to want to demonstrate that you are worth that money, and so show me what you're going to do. Well, I'm going to change something. From the audience perspective, there's a campaign that's been out there for a while, and it has created an impression in people's mind. I mean, if it's a brand that you're inheriting, if you're, you think of brands that have been around for generations like Campbell's and Nike and Budweiser and things like that, right? They're turning over people who are working on that business all the time. Well, there is a certain responsibility to not break what's out there. And I mean, Nike's a great one. Just do it has been their tagline for 30 years, 40 years. But sort of every couple of years, or if there was a period of time there where every 2 or 3 years is one of the greatest examples of this of all time is Nike. Their tagline, just do it, has been around for, 30 years, 40 years. It's obviously one of the greatest lines of all time. And about every 3 or 4 years, there's a front page story in Ad Age about how, we're moving on from thing. We got a new line, a new tagline. It's going to replace Just Do It. And then it doesn't, because it sort of peters out, and research, they run some focus groups, and they ask the focus groups what they think of the new tagline. And they go, you mean Just Do It? And it's, for God's sakes. And so it stays. But every new person on the business sort of feels like they should earn their keep by showing that they can finally be the one to replace it.
And they dearly want to be the one who does it.
And if you could, I guess that would be the greatest thing ever. The second greatest thing ever is keep giving me great Just Do It ads, right? Like, and that's what ends up happening is you come up with a new way of showing how great it is to work out at your highest intensity, or you do find new athletes that you can feature and show how awesome they are and pay off with that line. And those also become great ads. And in fact, the fact that they join the canon of great Just Do It ads is also awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think that comes down to, particularly in these large agencies, when you start looking at Ryan's Fun Fact, Spencer Stewart's annual CMO tenure study, they've been publishing this since 2004. The average CMO lasts approximately 4.5 years, but the average breakout of a campaign, the average breakout win of a campaign is somewhere between 5 and 7 years.
Right.
Right. So if we're 3 years into a campaign, they're just starting this campaign, they're moving on, and now somebody's coming in to make their mark.
Yeah. Well, and God help you if the agency review was 2 years before the CEO changed, because now the new CEO is coming in. He's in the first or second year of the new campaign. He already wants to make a difference, but it's only just started. So now he's got to wait to it really screws up any sense. And that's why I say that the greatest threat to the longevity of a great idea, something truly becoming part of the zeitgeist,
that could be a 10 or 15
that could
year
turn
campaign.
out to be a great idea, is that the new person is going to want to come in and, with the best of intentions, help make things new and different.
Nobody arrives to wreck it.
Yeah.
The new person wants to take it to the next level, or be the one who brings the transitions from the last idea to the next idea.
Yeah.
Right.
The intentions are always good. They're always honorable.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, Roy H. Williams, our partner and of course our mentor,
Certified crazy person.
has been warning against this for years. He's always been of the mind that refreshing the brand is much more about career anxiety than it is about strategy.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
So the veteran move, if you inherit a working campaign, extend it. That, the real wisdom that comes into these things.
Or what aspect of it can you keep? And I've talked about this in a previous episode. I recently inherited a campaign, and I was obviously brought in to make a difference and do something different in order to help the brand grow more than it was. But the answer can't be throw everything out. The question then becomes an even more difficult one to answer, which is, what is it that I can take from here and continue to do and somehow do in a better way or a different way or a more compelling way, where the viewer goes, oh, I see what the brand has done, but doesn't break or discard what's been established. It actually cashes in on the equity that has been established.
An evolution is harder to do than a transition.
And I mean, shows do it all the time. You make the comparison to sitcoms. Sitcoms will get rid of a character and they'll bring a new character in, or various people will fade in and out. but the show and the show may be better with the new set of characters, but the show continues to be the show. It's not like, the whole thing's out the window now and it has a totally different vibe and a totally different feel.
And in some cases they've tried and the show goes flat and they've realized
that key character was
right.
the crux of it. Yeah.
Well, and it's the baby with the bathwater, right? I mean, it's identify the baby and make sure you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
He's always the baby.
It is. He is a baby about a lot of things.
He really is.
But he does get his own way. Bored or broken? Before you change anything, ask yourself one question. Is this ad bored? Are you bored of the ad yourself? Or is it broken? Is the ad not doing the thing that it's supposed to do? If it's bored, that's your problem. Stop
and
worrying
I'll
about
attach to the board. Do you feel like you're underperforming if you don't do something? It's not just that you're bored with it, but you also feel helpless if you're not making a change, of contributing in some way.
Yeah.
You have to get comfortable with, I've inherited this thing. It's working really well. Let me be the steward of it and continue to take it forward. And that's enough to be the person who didn't break the Campbell's brand after 5 generations,
That's a great example. The Rolex brand, after however many generations as well, being transferred into professional management. If the audience is fine, let it run, right? If it's broken, that's the customer response.
Yeah.
Right? Now we have to assess that and determine whether or not we need to reinvigorate to change the momentum. But it's not always inclusive of complaints, right? The optimal number of complaints is never going to be 0 on ads. In fact, if you're not getting complaints, that's a signal that it might be broken.
Absolutely.
Or boring. It is so forgettable that nobody bothered to say, hey, that offends me.
Yeah. But on the topic of broken, sometimes a client will say, or someone on the team will say, I think we should change the ads. And I will challenge that with the following question. The reason why you should change the ad is because what we're doing is wrong. And that means it must always have been wrong. And that's okay. You can do it wrong. You can make mistakes in marketing. That's fine. Mm-hmm. But if it was right before, why would it be wrong now? Otherwise, it's just because you're fucking bored. And it's another way of calling bullshit. Because if you're saying, well, this is not right, it's like then it was always wrong. The reason to change the ad is if it's wrong. Or the advertising.
Unless something fundamental changes about your brand, right? And I'm trying to think of
which
it.
almost never happens.
No, it does. It does sometimes, and in which case, then you stop calling yourself. You do a name evolution, or you do something like that.
Okay, Subway had to change their advertising. Fair enough. Sometime, but in my defense, they should never have had that guy on the in the first place.
Well, hindsight is 20/20. See, guys, this conversation was far less boring than I anticipated.
Thank you.
I'm very glad that we had it. That's a wrap.
Remember that saying, only half your marketing is working, you just don't know which half? Let's help you with that. Book a free strategy session with Wizard Ryan Shute today at wizardofads.services. Yes, that's a URL. wizardofads.services. Now let's get back to the show.
To wrap things up, if you're running a business in America trying to figure out when to change your ads, here's the 3 things I'd want you to hitch your wagon to. 1, your customer hasn't started counting yet. Don't change the ads because you're tired of them. By the time you're sick of it, the audience is just starting to figure out that you exist. The clock doesn't start when you start. It starts when they start. And they haven't started yet. 2, change your ads. Don't change your advertising. Same brand, new episodes. Mac versus PC. Bobby and Mr. Jenkins. The Geico Gecko. Allstate's Mayhem. The assets stay, the episodes change. That's the move. Anybody who tells you the whole campaign needs a refresh is either bored or a noob, or both. 3, if you inherit a working campaign, don't kill it just to prove you're working. That's a rookie move. The wise veteran extends a working campaign, writes the next chapter, and takes all the credit when the numbers come in. Famous campaigns don't die from natural causes. They die from imbeciles with a tiny ego. If you don't hear anything else, hear this. The campaigns we talk about in advertising history weren't great because someone had a great idea once. They were great because someone had a great idea once, and then everybody who came after them had the discipline to not kill them. That's the whole game. Keep your ads fresh, keep your advertising consistent. Trust the people you hired, and try to outlive the urge to make your mark. Until next time, this is Advertising in America. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for joining us on Advertising in America. We hope you enjoyed the show and captured a nugget of marketing magic. Want to hear more? Subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with your friends. Do you have questions or topics you want us to cover? Join us on our socials at Advertising in America. Want to spend your marketing budget better? Visit us at wizardofads.services to book your free strategy session with Wizard Ryan Shute today. Until next time, keep your ads enchanting and your audience captivated.